Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And I gotta say, for me personally, for the second week in a row, Raw delivered. Now, not as strongly as the prior week, of course, because you really can't beat the post-WrestleMania Raw. But I really feel like the undercard especially shined through for the second straight week. I liked some of the setup that we got for Extreme Rules tonight. We had some great matches. One that really made, I think, both you and I pop, because we kind of saw it coming in a way, but I don't think we really knew if WWE was going to pull the trigger on it. And, yeah, just really a solid 3 hours. Maybe a few dips here and there, but I really wasn't annoyed that much tonight. What about you, Ashton?
I quite enjoyed this show. Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say commentary was really, really on point tonight. There were a few points where they said, like, really kind of ignorant things, but I don't think that they really had the ill intentions. But for the most part, I actually was not bothered at all by commentary tonight. It's crazy. And it's one of those things where you can say, oh, well, obviously the thing that got removed is Michael Cole, so he's the worst. But I think that it's just because JBL is so much worse with Michael Cole than anyone else.
Yeah, I think because him and Michael Cole, they have that relationship outside of the commentary desk.
It's like the Renee Young-William Regal situation.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just because they do all this extracurricular stuff together. Maybe it's just part of their relationship, but it doesn't translate well at all into commentary, at least in our opinion.
Maybe they get too comfortable while they're out there, and they get too casual, and they worry too much about talking about to each other rather than doing their jobs.
And that's, really what I'm getting at. So that's a great way to put it, and that certainly could be. Because, here, it did seem really strong.
Saxton, he might have... here's the thing. Last week with Saxton, it was one of two things. Either A, he crapped the bed, or B, he was acting overly dramatic, and he did his job appropriately. Maybe even something in the middle where he was supposed to do his job, but then Vince realized that he didn't want him to, and he got pissed at him later for doing his job. But at the end of the day, I think that Saxton brings a really good kind of professional stress and tension to the commentary table because Booker and JBL aren't familiar with him. Neither one of them are friends with him. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't even know if either one of them really even respects him. But at the end of the day, he's good in his spot where he is right now as long as he has color commentary to help him out. Like after Lawler came out last week, I felt like commentary was pretty good too. So it's one of those things where Saxton by himself, or really, I think really anybody by themselves is a disaster for WWE, especially if it's a play-by-play guy who doesn't have a ton of personality. But when you get Saxton out there as play-by-play and give him two color commentaries with opposite views, I think it works out really, really well. And commentary was, I would say, one of the bright spots tonight.
And, it's funny. I feel like we're having this conversation about commentary, and I will, say this. Commentary, I think, is a much harder job, in 2015 than it was, say, maybe in a time like the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era or something like that, because it's so much more than just calling matches. You got to promote the social media. You got to do this. You got to do that. So Byron Saxton, by himself, I can understand how that translates horribly. I think he was dealt a bad hand last week, at least for the first part of Raw. But tonight, it all really seemed to mesh well. So, yeah, again, just a really solid episode all around.
Absolutely.
Which just kind of makes this next segment more awkward, though. Heat of the night, in which
it's only awkward if you have a bunch of heats of the night.
Well, I have one, and it does relate to commentary. And again,
okay.
It kind of makes it awkward because we just had that conversation.
I probably agree with this, though, because if you're thinking what I'm thinking, then I agree with you.
There was a match tonight. I don't really want to spoil it, but I might as well say it. It was Seth Rollins versus Neville, and I can't wait to talk about that more in depth later. But on commentary at one point, Booker T said, well, Neville's no Curtis Axel, or he said something of the kind. Where it's like,
they straight up buried Curtis Axel here.
And I didn't. And now look, we have to be fair. We really got on commentary's case when they were doing the crap with the Ascension. I don't like that you just out and name somebody, heel comedy gimmick or not, and you use them as an example for a joke. You could have just as easily said, Neville's no pushover, Neville's no slouch, anything that would have done the same effect, but you had to go and personally name.
No, they were actually talking about Seth Rollins, because last week Neville's opponent was Curtis Axel, and now this week he had to face Seth Rollins. So they were saying, Seth Rollins, he's not Curtis Axel.
I guess that makes it more forgivable when it's that side of the coin. I will say that's kind of a misjudgment on my part. I misheard. But still, I don't really know how I feel about that. Just personally naming people when you could have said something to a similar effect.
Yeah, I mean,
that kind of thing.
Between it's the champion, and like if they would have said, "Oh, the Ascension are no insert tag team champions here," I would have probably accepted that more than saying, what they did. But also B. Curtis Axel versus the Ascension. You're supposed to take the Ascension seriously. You're not supposed to take Curtis Axel seriously.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I think that the biggest disconnect here, John, is that you want so badly to take Curtis Axel seriously, but the WWE has no interest in letting that happen.
And I do think that is true to a degree, but I think at the same time, commentary has an obligation to kind of protect all their talents and not just kind of out and out, just kind of, put them underneath a certain place. I mean, I get that Rollins is the champion and everything that you're saying. Yeah. It just didn't jive well for me, because again, I feel like you could have said so many other things that would have achieved a similar effect.
I think here's the thing, John. Here's a way to put it into perspective. If Santino Marella was still wrestling and he was in that spot tonight, or in the spot last week where he was the comedy heel and he challenged anybody and it was Neville, and then Neville comes out tonight and they would have said, Seth Rollins, he's no Santino Marella. How would you have felt about that?
Yeah, I mean,
you would have been like, ha, you're damn right.
I mean, I would have laughed. Admittedly, I would have laughed. But I think when you look at it...
But you love Curtis Axel. That's the thing.
See, but I think, you're right about that, but I'm trying to take me out of it. I'm just trying to look at how commentary should be done. And I just don't know if I like commentary being done that way when you personally name drop people.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you shouldn't be intentionally burying anybody. That's
what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, I know, and I'm saying I agree with you, but like, if there's any level of acceptability for burying any type of talent, it's comedic jobber heels. If there's any target that you could even make an argument for it being acceptable to bury on air, that's the type of person that is, and that's what Curtis Axel is.
I suppose you're right. It just kind of struck me weird when it was first said, and I just wanted to bring it up here because it's the appropriate place to do it. Yeah. But, that's all I wanted to say. No use being a dead horse there. So do you have any heats of the night tonight?
No, I don't have any heats of the night. I just, the one thing that I do want to bring up as far as commentary goes, it's more actually about what they didn't do rather than what they did do. Why is it that the Big Show is allowed to say that he is better than Andre the Giant ever was, but it's offensive when the Ascension says that they're better than the Road Warriors ever were?
I was kind of thinking about that because you said that to me while we were watching this together. And to me, it's either, I guess nobody is around to kind of defend Andre in terms of, like, I don't know, friends, relatives, whatever. I mean, that would actively defend Andre, whereas with the Road Warriors, Road Warrior Animal is still alive, and I guess, it kind of takes that personally, whatever. And B, the comparisons between Big Show and Andre have been going on for a long time, so maybe that's just kind of something he has on his side. I mean, hell, I heard that when he came
the comparisons have been going on, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that Big Show's better. To me, like, the comparisons have only been going on because of their size. At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it's pretty widely accepted that Andre is in a completely different league than Big Show.
But I think also if you look at the career of Big Show, there is some merit when he says, like, in Andre's shadow. I mean, isn't it even true that when he came to WCW as the Giant, the whole angle was, he's Andre the Giant's son?
Yeah.
And, like, that whole thing. So, like, I feel like there's that historical element there, and there's just that history there, and I feel like maybe that's why it's more forgotten. I get what you're saying.
I guess I'm just kind of waiting for Lance Storm to tweet something about how offensive it was that Big Show would mention a guy that's dead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, like, the whole outcry about the Road Warriors, to me, it was a two-pronged sort of argument. It was A, they're the greatest of all time, and you couldn't carry their bags and you don't deserve to be talking about them. And B, one of them is dead and you shouldn't be sort of drudging that up and that kind of stuff. And Andre the Giant fits both those bills, so I don't understand why it's okay for Big Show to say.
And you know what, dude? I think I'm kind of overthinking it, because you know what it might really come down to, the more I think about it, it may just come down to status. I mean, as much as you and I love the Ascension, I mean, they are...
that's kind of how I saw it, too. It was kind of like how I just kind of called you out for Curtis Axel versus Santino Marella. I'm calling commentary and sort of the wrestling community out for Big Show versus the Ascension. It's just, who do you like more?
Well, yeah, it's all about that seniority. You know, Big Show, I guess, is the veteran, so he gets to take liberties with things like that, and nobody's gonna, who's gonna step up to a giant? So it's that kind of whole deal.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up because that was like the only real thing that happened tonight that really kind of annoyed me. And I don't even want to say it got under my skin, because that would almost be giving it too much credit. It just kind of annoyed me. It was like, wow, like the double standard is so real right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really the only thing I wanted to bring up. That, and the fact that we've got commentators talking about how random female wrestlers are super hot, and it's just kind of demeaning. But regardless of that, we'll move on from this segment so we can actually talk about the show.